Hello, and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Karen Boback of the 117th District in Luzerne, Wyoming, and Columbia counties. I'm here at the 96th Pennsylvania Farm Show. This is the premier event for agriculture, which is the Commonwealth's #1 industry. The dual mission of the show is to highlight and honor our farmers and food producers while educating the non-farming public about the industry. Joining me now to discuss some of the current farming issues is the Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, George Gregg. Welcome, Secretary Gregg.
Welcome to you.
And thank you so much for being here with me today.
My pleasure.
Now, it is the 96th year that we are hosting this wonderful farm show. What do you do to keep it new every year and to keep the people coming?
Well, I think agriculture is changing constantly, and I think that's what keeps the people coming. And this is considered our state fair, and who doesn't have fun at a state at a fair? So, agriculture is constantly changing. The technology is always changing. Methods and the products that we use. We have to constantly be improving ourselves to feed the growing population that we have. So.
And you're absolutely right. And being the #1 industry in this state, we know that it's much more than growing product. It's also production end of it too. So can you explain that for our listeners?
Well, you have some good processors up there. You have Keith Eccles and some others up there in your district, and they had some pretty devastating floods up in your district. Yes. Also. I know that during the floods, I took USDA State Director Bill Weary with me, and we toured a lot of the farms in your district, and we went to the Eccles farm where they lost a lot of crops. And other people in that area had lost a lot of crops too.
And thank you for bringing that up, because as devastated as we were, and we still are, based on what we lost in crop and crop damage, we're coming back, because you know agriculture, you know the farming community. They'll be back bigger and better than ever. I can assure you of that.
Yes, it will.
Now, getting back to the farm show, what new vendors or what new products or what new things did you find this year that you haven't seen in the past? Anything?
Well, we have today's agriculture exhibit over behind the food court, and that is where they actually built a barn inside the building, and it depicts agriculture in a modern setting. So if you go into that barn, you will see chickens in cages, just like they would be in the poultry barns, and they have ducks grown just like they do on duck farms, and we have turkeys, beef cattle, dairy cattle, and pigs in that barn. So, and beside it, there's an actual exhibit of corn and soybeans growing. So it's just a fantastic. And also, this year, you can navigate the farm show on your iPad or your iPhone. So this building can be quite intimidating. 24 acres under roof. It's the largest agricultural expo hall in the nation, and 1 million square feet can be intimidating. So don't be afraid to ask directions.
I didn't know that, and I do have that capability on my phone. I'll have to remember when I go back to the stuffed potatoes. That happens to be one of my favorite foods here, among other things, but I do enjoy the sweet potatoes. What happens to be your favorite meal of choice here on the premises?
I like it all. I would say mozzarella cubes, fried mozzarella is my favorite. But I have to say, as long as we're talking about food, that the food court, the different areas, different food booths in the food court are all manned by a different ag organization. You have the mushroom growers, you have the vegetable growers, you've got the dairy associations, and the money that's raised by the sales of food goes back into the organization, goes back in a lot for youth scholarships, and it goes back into the organizations which advertise and promote our own industry. So it's the major fundraiser for the year right here at the farm show. So you can think about that when you're feeding your family and eating your lunch.
And when I go back for my milkshake, right?
Yes, that's right. You're supporting a good cause.
I sure am. And the last question I have for you, around the complex there are a lot of signs, Pennsylvania preferred. For our audience, can you describe that for us?
PA Preferred, which I believe you voted for and supported it. It's a great program. It's a marketing program that passed. Governor Corbett signed it. I've got a copy of the bill in my office, and it promotes local food. So everybody wants to know where their food comes from, and PA Preferred is going to help us to market the Pennsylvania products that are produced in Pennsylvania or processed in Pennsylvania. It was a great law, it's a great bill, and it's good. It's a good catch for consumers to look for. So.
And it supports our own, and it keeps agriculture our #1 industry.
That's right.
Well, it looks like we've come to the end of the interview, but I can't thank you enough for sharing your busy schedule with me and those I represent in the northeastern part of the state. Thank you, Secretary Gray.
Thank you very much.
2011 was an extreme weather year that included the destructive floods from Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. Here's the story of how Pennsylvania's farming community coped with the storms and the aftermath.
In my area, I suffered a flood in April and another one in September. The April flood delayed our planting. The September flood destroyed about 200 acres of our crops. We had as much as 22 feet of water on some of our land. My dad started farming in 1949. This is the most challenging year we have ever farmed through. I've had a couple years where we lost more money, but I've never had a more challenging year. In our area, we were over 30 inches of rainfall above normal. Part of the problem was even the quality of the crop, because in many cases, rain does a great deal of damage. We grow tomatoes, for instance. Tomatoes do very well in dry weather, but in wet weather, you have a tough time harvesting a quality tomato. You're wrestling with rain check. You're also wrestling with many diseases that find wet and damp conditions very conducive to them. An extremely challenging year for all growers, but like all growers, it's now 2012, and we're looking optimistically to the future.
From the 1st of September till we were done the end of October, it was rain, rain, and more rain, and the apples on the trees literally split and started to rot, and it made them not very good to store because they had all this moisture in, and they broke down much earlier than they normally would. Usually I have apples at my market till the latter part of February, and we closed up the first of the year because the fruit was just poor quality. So the only good thing about 2011 is it's over.
Well, the rains early delayed planting, and then we had more rain and floods that left a lot of fields underwater. Growers throughout Pennsylvania lost anywhere from a third to half the crop. You're talking millions and millions of dollars of lost revenue, and growers, the rest of the crop due to the rain was smaller than normal. For those that didn't get completely flooded out, we're hoping that we have a better season next year, but this year's pretty much done.
From the flooding, it made it very difficult to harvest the grapes. Most of our grapes had to hang for a little bit longer than we expected, which made it a longer season than anticipated because we were hoping that the grapes would dry out. We specifically lost about 3 acres of our Riesling grapes, and what we did harvest will require additional work by the winemaker to make it a product that we can sell. This happens in agriculture. We're lucky that we had 2010 and 2009 were pretty good years. So we still have those vintages that we're working on and can sell. It would take about 18 months for 2011s to be put on the shelf. So we're hoping for a good 2012, and there we'll have that for a backup.
Farmers are very independent people, and they're the first ones to help, the last ones to ask for help, and they're very resilient people, and I think that most of them have received the help that they needed and are well on their way to recovery.
A lot of farmers told us this year that this is the most challenging year they've ever had with the weather over decades. I mean, we've had people 70, 80 years old who've been in farming literally all of their lives say this past year has been the most challenging year. You get into the hurricane that we had come through, and although we had a lot of rain with that, we also had issue with the wind. The wind negatively impacted a lot of our orchards, where a lot of things such as apples and peaches just fell off the trees. Once they hit the ground, you can't sell them. They're no good. So there were major losses there. And then the second storm, the remnants of Tropical Storm Lee, you had the massive flooding with all the weather conditions, and that caused problems for everyone. A lot of farmers, especially in northeast and south central area of the state, were flooded. So a lot of their grounds, whether it was from pumpkins to corn to soybeans to green beans, there were major losses there with the flooding. But then you also had other issues because of all that rain. Once again, there was rotting crops in the field. So you could have problems with vegetables as well with that, rotting in the field, corn that you just couldn't use anymore. And if there weren't losses due to the flooding, what you had is a reduction in yield because you did not have a good growing season. This can also hurt farmers now in 2012. For instance, dairy farmers who grow a lot of their own feed, meaning corn, soybeans, hay. They put it all together, a couple other things in there to feed their animals. If they have to go out and now buy those products, it cuts right off their bottom line of profits as well. So they don't have the yield, they don't have as much, they're going to have to go outside. This is going to cost them more money. So it makes it difficult. Not only do you have the problems of 2011, but you're going to have problems in 2012 as well. Up in the northeast, you had a lot of flooding up there. Another issue was for dairy farmers is you can't keep milk around. And a lot of roads around some of these farms in rural areas were closed for days. So the milk hauler couldn't get in to get the milk, and the farmers basically had to dump the milk because they couldn't keep it any longer.
When you drive down a rural road past a barn, are you able to imagine what goes on inside? A massive display at this year's show opens the barn door and gives folks a peek at how the animals inside are cared for.
From farm gate to dinner plate was the theme of this year's show. One of the best demonstrations of this theme was the Today's Agriculture display, a giant barn filled with animals. The goal was to show the care of animals in modern farming.
A lot of consumers really have a misconception about how animals are raised. So we kind of wanted to open the doors to each segment. So each thing here is a snapshot of what you'd see if you went into a broiler house, a duck house, a layer house, to kind of give consumers an idea and say, hey, we're opening the doors. We want you to actually get rid of those misconceptions and to trust us. Because there's a lot of distrust there where people think, they think farms are corporately owned when the fact is most farms are actually family farms.
What I think it's going to allow them to see is that they put the misnomer aside, that when the animals are in these facilities that they drive by every day, that they're not packed in like sardines, so to speak, that they're not being mistreated, that they don't have light, they don't have water, and a lot of these things that you hear out there about the mistreatments of animals and stuff. And when you look at some of the exhibits, the poultry here is a good example of it, of the automatic feeders and the waters and the heat lamps, and those are things that you would find in these modern facilities today, so that we can keep the animals healthy, growing well, growing fast, so that they can put a product on the consumer's table.
Volunteers from each industry fielded questions about what the animals eat, their life cycle, and the design of their pens.
The crowd has been unbelievable. It's been pretty much jam-packed for the last 4 days. People are asking a lot of good questions, and they're really getting into it. I think people like seeing how animals are raised. They're making the connection that my eggs are coming from this type of system, and that's exciting for me to see.
Well, that's why we kept her home from school today, to bring her down to see how things actually go from the farm to your house
I think they take care of the animals. They feed them, they take care of them. And I think they're real cute.
Visitors were struck by the new techniques being used by farmers today.
It's really neat seeing the way the new stuff is, how it evolved and come around. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is pretty modern.
How they're feeding their animals nowadays with the pipes and how they're getting the water to the animals. It's really nice.
It's a lot cleaner, too.
It's a lot cleaner.
Many people are also learning that there's more to farming than meets the eye.
People are amazed of the science behind agriculture. And when I tell them I go to school for it, they're kind of blown away because they don't think that, people go to school. They're really amazed that we put so much science behind agriculture. And there's a reason to what we do. I mean, we don't just do things. I mean, everything has a reason, a select reason, and it's always for the animal's benefit.
Feed crops like soybeans and corn were displayed outside of the barn to demonstrate the ways of increasing yields for a society that continues to demand more food.
McDonald's keeps adding restaurants, and Sheetz gas stations. They keep adding, gas stations that serve food, and these places are going to demand more food, and we had to find better ways to get it and stuff too. So through modern technologies, we found what are the best ways we can keep the animals healthier, which ways we can make the corn grow faster and more efficiently, so when it's harvested, we get the most from the production.
The grain, the soybean meal, the corn, all takes water, and so we've got to be efficient converters of feed into food.
Sponsors of the exhibit hope that the hundreds of visitors were educated and will now think twice about the food on their plate and the local farmer who supplied it.
Pennsylvania is making it easier to take advantage of the fresh fruits and vegetables available at your local farm market, especially for low-income consumers or seniors on fixed incomes.
During Farm Show Week, Tad Kuntz puts in some volunteer time at the apple stand in the food court, but his full-time job is running a central Pennsylvania farm market that participates in the Farmers Market Nutrition Program.
We feel like it does a great service for the community because we want those people to get fruits and vegetables in their hands so they can eat healthier.
The program combines federal and state funds to give $20 worth of vouchers to eligible seniors to spend on fresh Pennsylvania-grown produce. It provides the same service plus free supplemental foods to families who participate in the Women, Infant, and Children programs.
The farmers markets are growing very rapidly right now. Almost every city has farmers markets now. And most of the farmers markets, most of the vendors accept the vouchers, so they can use them there and get fruits and vegetables in their hands. And the quality is so much better than what they're used to seeing at the grocery store in many cases.
Michael Packard, Executive Deputy Secretary of the State Department of Agriculture, says this program really helps those who are stranded, so to speak, in our most urban areas.
There's areas of cities which are deficient. They do not have grocery stores and they don't have fresh fruits and vegetables. So when we're able to support getting a farm market into a center city area and pumping fresh fruits and vegetables and Pennsylvania products into there, it really helps the consumers from a nutritional standpoint in those areas.
According to Packard, nearly 2,000 farmers markets and roadside stands currently accept the food vouchers. He believes even more will get on board once the word spreads about another brand new program.
We just received a federal grant about a year ago to purchase 138 EBT readers. Those are the electronic benefit readers, and these readers are wireless, so they enable a farm market that's wherever in Pennsylvania to be able to accept SNAP benefits from people coming to the farm market. So that was always a barrier possibly, as people, especially those at need or nutritionally at risk, did not feel they could afford the products. But now with these EBT readers that we're providing to farm markets, they will be able to use their SNAP benefits there.
Each year, $78 million worth of business is done at more than 7,000 markets, where Pennsylvania consumers can get fresh fruit and vegetables straight from the farm. The Farmers Market Nutrition Program creates more customers for these markets while helping more people improve the nutritional value of their diets. Truly a win-win situation.
It is a guaranteed income from us because it's a check that can't bounce. We turn it into to our bank and we get the money in return. And in return, it's great for the people. And farmers always want to, we want to help the people.
For more information on the Farmers Market Nutrition Program or the EBT machine grants, see the Department of Agriculture website at agriculture.state.pa.us.
Farming is as old as the earth itself. but the techniques used to raise animals and crops are not. Here's a look at how today's farmer stays current to provide the healthiest animals and safest food to the buying public.
As much as farming has stayed the same over the past 10, 20, or even 50 years, it's changed just as much. The purpose is still to harvest fresh food and take it from a farm in Pennsylvania to a kitchen plate that could be anywhere in the world. What has changed is the way technology is used in order to help make that delicate and necessary process take place. When talking about how technology has changed our way of life, few often think about how it has changed the farmer's life. From GPS systems to alternative energy, a lot of what we use on a daily basis is also being used by farmers of all ages. One of the biggest changes is GPS systems in combines that allow the machine to map its route out and even compare it to the previous year's harvest.
We don't have to steer a tractor or a sprayer or a combine anymore. An operator just basically sits in a seat and allows the machine to steer itself through that GPS receiver. So it has created a climate where we're just a whole lot more efficient.
Another change is the way that cows are milked. While we've heard of pumping machines that a farmer can attach to the cow's udder, have you heard about the laser system that's used to allow the pumping machines to attach itself to the cow without anyone having to be present in the barn?
We have robotic milkers, so you don't have to be in the barn milking your cows. The cow can go into the milker and get milked as many times as it wants during the day. They're set up that way. The animal has to go through the milker to go get feed, so it gets milked every day at least once so it can go eat. They have lasers on arms that attach the milkers to the udder, that the laser will find the teat and put that milker unit on that quarter and then go to the next one, and it comes off automatically when the cow is done with a sensor.
Another new practice that has changed the way farmers communicate with each other and their customers is social networking. Through Facebook, Twitter, and other types of social networking, farmers can learn about new methods to use on the farm instantly while being hundreds of miles away from each other.
Older farmers, or even our farmers who are the average age, which is 58 to 60, haven't quite grasped the whole social media, but our younger farmers are getting very involved with that. A lot of them also have Facebook, so they have websites showing weekly specials and what's for sale at the farm. Farmers realize they need to reconnect with consumers. Consumers want to know more about how their food is produced, where their food comes from, that animals are being treated in a fair and healthy way. So farmers are connecting back with consumers. Consumers are interested, and we think this can be a great relationship.
The next time you sit at your computer and hear about the latest tablet or computer program or use the newest means of social media, take time to think about how these pieces of technology are helping to bring fresh food to your local store.
Everyone knows a big part of the farm show experience is competition, some of which results in a lucrative payoff at the livestock auction. But not everyone is aware the auctioneers themselves have a spirited competition to see who is the best.
When the grand champion steer, hog, and lamb are auctioned off at the Pennsylvania Farm Show, Harry Bachman is usually the man behind the microphone. It's something he was born to do.
I'd watch those auctioneers and I say, someday I'm going to do that. And then at home with my brothers, we'd be playing auction all the time in the playroom. I'd be selling the trucks, the cows, the tractors, and whatever.
Bachman's stage is in the livestock sales arena, for 30 or so other licensed auctioneers battling it out to be king or queen of the callers. Their stage is 100 yards away in the banquet hall.
This is a very serious deal. You're back home and you can tell everybody that you won the Pennsylvania Auctioneers Contest.
When you get the cameras and the lights and everything, and in front of, like I said, the past bid calling champions, it's a big deal.
The ground rules are simple. Contestants take turns auctioning off donated items to a crowd of bargain hunters and fellow bid callers. 2 preliminary rounds narrow the field to 10 finalists, and then a final showdown decides the champion.
I'm contestant number 26.
No names, just numbers. But that's not what gives an auctioneer his or her identity anyway. It's that voice.
Putting it 50.
Some are melodious. Some are intense. Most are machine gun rapid. It's called the chant, and it's very much an individual thing. But why are all those syllables necessary anyway?
The filler is what makes your chant rhythmic and gives it some flexibility. What I was taught was bid would you give? So somebody will say bid 1, would you give 2? And then after a while it just sounds like bid 1 would have been 2, bid 1 would have been 2, would have been 2.
Whatever the style, the auctioneer's objectives are to be heard and understood, even when the bidding gets frenzied.
I can work 1 and 2, sometimes 3 bidders, but usually you work your first 2 bidders. Whenever one of them drops out, then you'll go to another bidder.
Of course, a good bid caller is expected to be knowledgeable about what he's selling and to drive the price of it as high as it'll go.
We're not concerned about where we start, it's where we finish. The bid is, the high bid is established by the buyer, not just the auctioneer or the seller. It's the want and desires of the audience.
Among the past champions in tonight's crowd is 2003 winner Brent Souter, who briefly took the stage for an exhibition performance.
Well, I started actually when I was 13, helping an auctioneer set up auctions, and through high school I aspired to do that, and coming out of high school was contacted by the Alder for Auction Company, and they hired me, sent me to school. I apprenticed through them, and the rest is history.
Souter's calling to call began in childhood. For many others, it came from family tradition.
My father started the auction business after he retired from the service. And he started his own auction barn, and then he pulled me in, and I was apprentice with him for 2 years, and then we did auctioneering as a father-daughter team.
Even though only one will be judged best, all the contestants at this year's competition will use this experience to improve their skills and, in turn, their livelihood. And they're all quick to point out that showtime, as they call it, is just one part of being an auctioneer.
You got to get the contracts on, you got to get your advertising in place, and then you got to come back, get pictures, get the content list, put that all into spreadsheets, get it sent out to newspapers, get it put on websites.
You have to not mind crawling in dirty, dusty attics. You have to enjoy what you're doing because there's a lot of hard work involved. I just love everything about the business. I love the history behind it. I love the people behind it. There's a different story for everything that you sell.
That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm State Representative Karen Boback. As you've watched this profile of the 96th PA Farm Show, I hope you've gained a greater appreciation for agriculture and its importance to our Commonwealth. If you have any questions about today's program or any state government matter, please contact me at my local office. The address and number will be shown in a moment. Thanks for watching, and please join me next time for another edition of Legislative Report.